Thank you very much, Greg. Everybody has said good morning. Allow me to say bon dia, which is good morning in Valencian. It's an enormous honor what you're giving me today. And not only because we are in Valencia, probably the most dynamic Spanish city, at least it was until a couple of months ago, but also because we are here celebrating the consolidation of a festival which we have been dreaming of for many, many years. So let me start by thanking your efforts, Charlie, Greg, Alistair, Richard, Claire, Katrina, and others, for having done what you have done already. It's a great, great pleasure and a satisfaction to have this festival consolidated and going on. Now, the briefing. You'll see in a minute that the festival is consolidated, but they made a tremendous mistake with the opening speaker. Now, just let me put this in a frame. I've been asked to talk about our industry, the impact of the recession in our industry, and put this all together with the concept of sustainability. Not an easy task, at least for me, and I will probably be the first victim of the Inquisition in a few minutes, but I'll try to do it in 20 minutes, which is obviously mission impossible. Let me start with the first issue, which is recession. It's a personal view, a very, very personal view, so not the other members of the Havas group necessarily share it. That's the way we see it. Some blue sky, still there, foggy, more fog coming up. This is not leaving, but coming, yellowish, mountains ahead, bumpy, unpleasant, still some blue sky. And clearly, confusion. We're all confused. We don't know if it's now the time to start again, stop, cut, invest. And why are we so confused? We are confused because this is mainly new territory for most of us. No one born after 1930 has seen this before. You see here the drop. It's not a recession. It's something much sharper, much bigger, much profound. Never seen before. Main indicators. On your left-hand side, global industrial production. It's not down, it's gone. On the right-hand side, more importantly, exports in the emerging and the advanced economies. Down all the way. Exports are more important because they talk about the lag. So take at least 15 months until this left-hand side recovers because of the right-hand side. Containers and ships crossing the oceans run half empty. In our view, there are two brakes that have not yet been put off. Both are basic stones of our system. The first one is the speed of circulation of money. Today is 3 kilometers an hour if we take 2007 as a base. 2007 was 200 kilometers an hour, today is 3. Only 6 months ago, the speed of money, only 6 months ago, was the one we had in 1960. Today is clearly below that. The economy has stopped because the main essence has stopped. Again, money circulating around the system. The second one, and probably more interesting to us, is consumption. Again, it's not only down, it's way down. And what is more interesting, at least to me, is that people, especially in the Western world, are starting to get used to it. Not only that, in our last consumer panel, people are expressing some sort of wellness by having reduced, in some particular purchases, 30 and 40% down their level of consumption they had back 2 years ago. So this level of consumption that we see as now critical and dramatic might become structural, which is not bad news in the long run, but clearly in the short run, our output is prepared for 100, not for 70, and some adjustment will be needed. These two brakes, again, consumption and credit or speed of circulation of money, are today avoiding a clear restart of the engine. And this is why, personally, I think this will take long. Long meaning at least 2-3 years until these variables turn around again. Don't call me a pessimistic, eh? Now, there are other issues which are making things a little bit more interesting. Today, China is the first lender, the first creditor to the US. Let's think if this is possible. Let's just close our eyes for 5 minutes. If 5 years ago, not 10, but 5 years ago, someone would have told you here that China was going to be, in 2009, the first owner of dollars, you would have think this guy is mad. Well, today's a fact. By far, the first creditor. This obviously will create not only some tensions, but it shows a clear change in the dynamic. We are not anymore in a central world. However, these are just facts, more or less economical facts, but the crisis goes a little bit beyond that in our understanding. We don't think this is just an economic recession. We think this is a little bit more complicated, more complex, more interesting, if I may. This has to do now with values. I'm not sufficiently prepared to tell you if values come before the crisis or the other way around. I sympathize more with the latter. I think that the crisis is probably the outcome of something deeper. But clearly, we are touching values here. And I was going to use this and share this metaphor with you. The cars we build today, and we are not selling, are conceived in 1930. You have a Bugatti here on the left-hand side. I'm sure Maynardo will appreciate this. The cars we drive today, most of the cars we drive today, are conceived by values that are no longer real, such as speed. We should drive the cars that are on the right-hand side of the slide, but we don't. We clearly produce and buy the cars that are in the left-hand side. This is a metaphor for the rest of our output, our production, and our way of life. And obviously, we are now facing a transition in terms of values. And this will clearly put a fast drop, a clear reduction in the speed of our future growth. Let me close the recession part here and open the second one, which is sustainability. Look, we have to say this. We live in the best world ever. And it's not a personal opinion. This is democracy. People from other parts of the world, non-Western economies, come to visit us by millions on a yearly basis. They are not stupid. What we have created in the West is probably the best world ever. We live longer. We have never had a health system like the one we have, and so on, so on, so on. But at the same time, we are dilapidating natural resources as never before. You will have here a few charts that show you what I mean by deep dilapidation. This is the evolution of carbon emissions since the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. And you will see that the value generation we have been creating is not equal for everybody. There are still a lot of people who live below the line of $1.5 a day and growing. And there are other limits we're touching, more individual ones. This is a map of the US and the distribution of obese population in America. 30% today in most of the US states, 30% of that population is obese. Other data. The World Health Organization says that 60% of our illnesses today in the West are produced because of modern drugs. Our cities. Is this an example of creating value? What is happening to the species? Is this an example of creating value? And so on, so on, so on. Now, this might be a bit, you might say, a bit militant. I assure you I'm not, or even academical. I'm not either. Let's see what people think. Greg was referring himself about a study we conduct on a yearly basis. This is the second edition in 11 markets around the world: Brazil, Mexico, the US, China, India, France, the UK, Germany, Spain. 20,000 interviews. What do they think? What do our consumers think? Let me put it this way. They think sustainability is still very important. This is after the crisis. This field research was done in February. Let me use a metaphor. Imagine that you live in a farm and you are being invaded by aliens, okay? I know you need some imagination here. Eh? And that becomes your main problem. And aliens start to manifest themselves, they enter in the garden, and you need to react to that. And then suddenly, you have a fire. Well, of course, the fire becomes your first priority, but aliens are still there. That's more or less the trade-off today in the mind of consumers and population between sustainability and crisis. Of course, sustainability is not the main priority. People and us, we are not totally crazy. The first priority is to put down the fire. But sustainability is still there and very, very high. In this chart, you see that more than a third of the population we have interviewed think that sustainability is still a very, very serious concern. Not just a concern, but a very serious concern. This is a scale from 1 to 7, 1 meaning non-concern at all, 7 very concerned. The second chart shows you, in average again, that companies who are committed and respect environment will be favored. That's what people agree on. You have many other interesting data here. I have to fly because of matter of time. Here is about rewarding and punishing. Unanimous. In most of the markets, people are ready today after the crisis to reward companies that do efforts vis-à-vis the environment and sustainability in general, not only natural resources, and they are ready to punish those that don't. More data. Sustainability today is a concept that people understand as such. We were very surprised. We thought that sustainability was still very academical. It's not. Plain consumers understand the concept, and not only this, they link it with other categories and terms such as environment, future, health, balance, and so on. And it's not only the consumer. Important players in the industry, and here we have the case of Walmart, have changed, and have changed radically. Walmart is an excellent case. This company, before 2005, was clearly a top 500 company among those less respected and appreciated by the US consumer. And suddenly, they had an idea. They went sustainable. And they did it in a record time, only in 1 year, 2005. What they're producing today is probably not only the largest retailer in the world, but one of the most sustainable retailers in our planet. And this is not only affecting them, not only affecting their clients, but affecting their suppliers, us and our clients, who have to become sustainable and who have to have a clear plan of sustainability if they want to keep on serving Walmart.